So the video released yesterday on using Novamira to create a sort of real estate starting point for a website using the data structure with ACF, those kinds of things. That opened my eyes to quite a few different positives and a couple of negatives with the whole process. Now, a lot of feedback is coming back in on that video and other videos I've released on Novamira and using AI alongside WordPress. And the general consensus seems to be it's crap at design. And to a large extent, I would agree. It's not the best thing for design, and what it does design is relatively generic. You can get around that by using skills and giving it sort of uploading images and things that you want to use as a starting point to get it sort of feedback, but that can end up with a bit of a disjointed sort of thing. So in this video, I just want to have a bit of a talking head with you about some of my experience, some of the things that I think it really shines at, and some of the areas that maybe you wouldn't use it right now. This will probably change in the near future, but for right now, we're talking about that. So for anybody that doesn't know, Novamira allows you to connect up your WordPress to an MCP where you bring your own key. So whether that's in like Claude or it's using Codex, and you can use various other tools like VS Code, the desktop applications, you can use CLI connections, there's lots of ways in which you can connect it up. The Pro version has been trained on Elementor and also on Bricks. So it has better integration with those tools to help you build websites out using one of those technologies. There's also a new version coming out soon that has training on advanced custom fields. While it already works pretty well with ACF, these new features are going to help it work better and also to work better with some of the more advanced features in ACF Pro. So I will be testing that out once I have access to it, and I will obviously create a video showing you how that works. But let me just go through some of the things that I think are really strong about using this and how I would personally use it in my workflow. First of all, let's kick things off with a little example of what I've been working on testing today. It's along the same lines as yesterday's video to keep context, but let me just show you. So first of all, there's a hero section here that's being created. This is taken from a design that I just literally grabbed a wireframe from Bricks, said recreate this, insert images you download from Pexels, and that was basically all the instructions. It has then come back with this layout. It's put text in there, so we don't have just plain old vanilla sort of filler text. It knows the context of what we're doing. Then we've got the images. It's added those in, downloaded those, done everything I want, asked it to add alt tags. All those things have been done. So these are multiple steps that you may use in prototyping, or maybe you're doing this when actually creating the site. I've also tested this where you upload via sort of Codex in my example, but you could use Claude as well, through Novamira Pro, told it to resize the images, convert them to WebP, apply the alt tags based upon the content of the image itself. So it's going to look at the context and then actually create the alt tags that go with it, upload them, do all those things. And it was literally a case of one simple prompt, add the images in and let it carry on. It did all that, added into the media library, did everything I asked it to do. That's great if you've got like 2 or 3 images, but if you've got 100 images and you wanted to do it, that's going to save you a lot of time having to do this, or use an online service as part of your actual website, which then potentially saps resources, or you've got to pay if you're using an external service to handle the CDN side of things and compressing the images and so on. Just another little useful thing you can do. Then if you come down, I asked it to create the archive page. This is a template like I covered in yesterday's video, but also wanted to take it a step further. So for example, I wanted it to create these little pills for the various different property types, but I wanted them to be colored differently. It's a very common process, and it's one of those things that's not as easy as it first may seem. Well, it came back and did it through what it considers his main method, which I'll talk about in a second. But I said, I don't want to do it that way. I want to keep everything as possible to work inside native Bricks, so I can then modify it should I want to. Same thing goes for Elementor. So I got it to go back. It said, well, that can't really be done. So I kind of argued the point and said, well, maybe we could use attributes, custom attributes, to tie those into some CSS sort of classes that we create. And then it'll sort of pull that data from the taxonomy for this property type, reference it, and then update based upon that attribute. Did a little bit of back and forth, and that's exactly what we ended up with. So these are now CSS variables, CSS classes, I should say. This means that I can change them if I want to. These are starting points. They can be edited. Again, these are all things you can do yourself, but you can actually just basically tell it to do it. So these are things that I think are good time savers. From a design point of view, I would start probably tweaking this considerably to get exactly what I want, but it hits the ground running. The template's created, the conditions are applied, all the dynamic data is pulled in. Got various different styling applied to it, so it's quite cool to do it from that point of view. Then if we go and take a look at the actual page, I'm still in the process of fleshing this out, but I wanted to show you one key important thing. If we take a look at this information on the right-hand side, in yesterday's video, I did one simple thing. I basically had a bidirectional relationship between the property and the agent, and that's all there was to it. It's a very simple setup. When you add another element in there, so in other words, I've got the properties connected to the agent, but the agent is also connected to their business. In other words, these are agents inside a company, so an estate agency. So we've added a custom post type for that in, created a one-way connection there. We don't need bidirectional. Then this information is actually combined from those two different post types. The information for the actual agent themselves, but then all the information underneath is the business they're associated with. Again, these are not massively complicated things to do, but they do take quite some time to set up from a data point of view. You have to create custom post types, taxonomies, put details in there, then create relationships, make sure those relationships work, combine the data, put all those things together. All of this was basically done for me. A couple of prompts, probably 5 minutes, and it's all done. I then got 10 properties, 3 estate agencies, 3 estate agents, all the connections are set up, and I've got a structure in place, all done through using Novamira and Codex, that I don't need to mess about with. And it's all done inside ACF. I pointed to make sure it's using ACF or ACF Pro, depending on what you want to use. So it gives you native control and functions. So this is one of the things I want to draw your attention to that Novamira can do, and this is a Novamira thing. This isn't part of the LLM where they're using Codex and so on. If you come into Novamira and into the sandbox, it will frequently create a custom function to do certain things. You can see property admin taxonomy controls, property admin thumbnail column, property type pills disabled. So that's the first way it attempted to create those sort of little pill shapes with the different colors and so on, and it worked perfectly. So there's nothing wrong with doing it that way, but I want everything to be native to the tool that I'm using, so I don't have to rely upon Novamira and custom functions. So got it to do what I wanted to do, disable that. So I could, if I wanted to, delete that because it's not being used. These two, however, are being used, and this is a different approach that is useful when you're using a tool like Novamira. So if we come into my properties and list all my properties, you can see I've got a thumbnail image for the property, which is not native to WordPress. I've also got my property types, which is part of ACF. You get it to display that, but these are sortable, so I can sort these ascending or descending. It's entirely up to me. But I've also got a custom filter inside here, so I can filter these based upon their type. So for example, if I'm looking for terraced houses, I can filter. There's my terraced house. I could go in and edit it. Not a problem with 10, but when you've got 1,000 properties on you, this comes in super handy. Also, one of the things that can happen is when you go to all property types, it doesn't kind of reset the filter. It found that, come back with a solution, fixed it, done the job for me. So again, it's one less plugin you have to have that customizes this, so you can customize the dashboard in the same way that you can build at the front end. If we come into ACF, for example, we've got a couple of post types inside here. We've got estate agencies, estate agents, and properties. If we go into any of these, you can see they're basically your typical post type. But if we come into field groups, for example, we've got property details, and this is where all our custom meta fields are added in. So you can see things like image gallery. I'm using ACF Pro, so we've got the gallery function. Estate agents, price qualifier, and so on. So all of these things are included and connected to the property. Same thing goes if we come into the field groups again, and we say estate agency details. There's the details for the estate agency. Come back out. We've got estate agent relationships. This has connected the relationship between the estate agent and the agency. So you can see all of this has been done. I haven't done any of this, and then I've asked it to actually populate all this data. So if we come into properties and we open up a property, you see there's my gallery. There's my bidirectional relationship for the estate agent. There's my property types, which is a custom taxonomy, all listed inside there, all pre-filled out for us based upon UK type properties, which is named differently to other countries in certain respects. Then your price, your qualifier, all that data is here. You can see you've also got drop-down lists. So we've got select fields. We don't have to manually put these in. So for sale, under offer, sold, subject to condition, or subject to contract, whatever it is, let agreed, and so on. So we've got all of this data is included straight out the box. We don't have to do any of this. So if you're prototyping an idea, this is really cool. One of the things I do want to test out, and I will test out soon, is can we take CSV formatted data, for example, from an existing site or from a database, and then pull that into this and have it populated? My thoughts are, can't see any reason why you can't, because as long as the field titles, the sort of heading titles for each of the different fields inside your database or spreadsheet, whichever you're using, match up to what you've got inside your ACF setup, it should be able to marry those together and therefore pull the data in. So I will try that. If you want me to try it, let me know down below. Even better, if you've already got a CSV that's formatted in that way and you want to share it with me to save me having to create one, by all means drop that in the comment section down below and let me know. So you can see how this will really speed up the process of prototyping or building things out, especially from a data structure point of view. The other thing is when it comes to the design, if you leave it up to its own devices, the designs generally will suck a little bit. Even if you use some of the skills that are sort of there to help it design better, they're not necessarily the best. But as long as you give it references to be able to pull from, like this, for example, was pulled in from another wireframe. I just told it to use the images from the sort of site itself. So these are the gallery images. This is the featured image. Then underneath, like I say, we'll have the relevant details. You can see there's the little pill because we set this up to be using attributes and to be using classes that are part of Bricks. It has access to all that and it can pull that in throughout the entire design. And it's all fully editable inside Bricks. So if we come into the style manager and come into our classes, you can see there's our property type pill, bungalow, cottage, country house, and so on. So all of the different property types all have their own custom class associated with it. So we can reference those at any point, edit them at any point, have full access and control to all of those. So if we change our color scheme, they reference the various different sort of color variables. It'll all change. This is the beauty of working this way. But I think this is where the strength of AI comes in, using something like Novamira connected up to, to your WordPress website. Even though I'm using Bricks to build this out, it's using native elements. So there's nothing custom being included inside here. But you do have to train Novamira to work properly. So let me show you how you would go about doing that. So inside Novamira Pro, you've got memory and instructions. Now this is a pro feature, but what you can do is you can set custom instructions. So for example, when ACF or ACF Pro is installed, always use that instead of using native WordPress functions for creating CPTs, etc., etc. When designing any content, ensure you always use the CSS variables already added to the site design system. You get the idea where I'm coming from with this. But what you can do is you could easily just sort of copy all of these. You're going to use them when relevant. Have that as a kind of vanilla setup. Always use a blueprint for setting up websites anyway, so you can have all this configured and set up. Then underneath you've got memories, and as you can see, we've got user memories, we've got project memories, and we've got feedback. So there's various different memories that are being used to ensure that certain things happen. So this could be a case of, I will tell my particular LLM, Codex in this example, to always do something. It'll be added to the memory. So for example, under the user section, use design system variables. User requires design work to use existing Bricks design system CSS variables instead of hard-coded design values. These train Novamira to do what we want it to do and not have too much of its own free will or just to override what we tell it to do. This is kind of saying, look, this is what we want it to do. Make sure you do it. So the combination of custom instructions and memories should help you get much better results. And like I say, because we've got the ACF functionality being added in soon to Novamira Pro, I think we'll have even more control and functionality available to us when we want to build those data structures out. But if you are in the mindset of thinking, I don't want to give access to AI to do these kinds of things, this is no real difference to you doing it manually. You can take off Novamira afterwards because this is the whole point of having everything integrated directly into Bricks or ACF and not relying upon any custom functions. If you do have custom functions like I have for the filtering or for the featured image, you'd need to have Novamira running. But what you can do is you can come into your configuration and you can say to it, disable the AI abilities if you want to, or disconnect things up from there. But in general, I would just use Novamira to kind of set my data structure up, build my templates out, and then I would go in and I would customize the look and feel, pull them in line to my overall design system, and get a solid starting point. If this reduces 50% of the work you have to do on a project, and you can do a lot of these things just by literally having a simple conversation, and you can do it vocally if you want to enable that function with whatever tool you're using. That in itself, I think, is definitely part of the way in which we're going to work moving forward. But I wanted to put this together because I learned a lot in yesterday's video. I learned a lot demoing before I did the video, and I've learned a lot since then. That video yesterday brought up various different things that I wanted to change and try in a different way and expand upon. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'll be bringing to you over the next couple of weeks and months as I explore various different ways in which we can streamline this AI workflow and navigate what is very volatile at the moment. So many people saying, oh, well, WordPress is dead. You're never going to use WordPress. It's rubbish. It's dead. Everything's going to be vibe coded. We all know that that is, to a large extent, a load of BS. It's a load of AI hype. The reality for most people, especially if you run a business or an agency, for the foreseeable future, is you will harness these tools to speed up and reduce the amount of work you have to do and make you more efficient, which then opens you up to either work faster and take on more clients, or look at ways in which you can value add to existing clients that go beyond. Most clients don't want to spend time doing the shit that we do when we build a website. They don't. They never did. You'll always have people that are happy to do that, and they were never going to be a good client anyway. Fact of the matter is, most business people have a website or some online presence in whatever format. They just want to get on with their job of making money. The website is something you do because you know what you're doing, and they can probably pay you less money than they would lose doing the work themselves. This is the real message that I think a lot of people are just missing out on with the fear-mongering that's going on. We are changing the way in which we approach design and building websites. We're not getting rid of it completely. But that's my thoughts. What are yours? Drop a comment down below. Have you tried this kind of workflow? Have you found success in it? What do you find works well or doesn't work well? Drop a comment down below. Let me know, because I would love to have that conversation with you. As always, all the applicable links are in the description down below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.